Session 5, Project Financing, Introduction. This study session will expose you to what financing of a project is all about, as well as some preliminary conditions to be met in project financing. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Discuss the link between the project and finance. 2. Point out the various sources of financing. Project and finance. Lack of funds has been always one of the major problems entrepreneurs usually encounter in carrying out their businesses. Scarcity of funds often remain the excuse put up by these entrepreneurs for not executing a project. They sometimes claim that banks refuse to give them loan to execute this project, but it may well be that these projects are not bankable projects, and also they may not know the various types of sources of financing available to them. According to Ekpeyoung 1993, there are certain generally acceptable practices of financing businesses which is found to be useful. Some of these practices are, among others: 1. It is unfound business practice to operate a business without any form of borrowing. 2. Borrowing to finance a business can turn out to be more profitable than self-financing. 3. Self-financing can lower the credit rating of a business. Certain preliminary consideration in project financing. In financing any project, there are certain numbers of issues that need to be analyzed. Such issues will include the following: preconditions. There is the need for a good feasibility study and viability report before any form of financing arrangement is entered. Vital factors to be analyzed. The following important ingredients in a project should be analyzed before a final decision is taken. They include, among others: A. Magnitude of the fund required. B. Structure of the fund. C. Interest rate. D. Repayment method. E. Moratorium. F. Processing period. G. Disbursement of approved fund. A. Magnitude of fund required. The size of the fund required by an investor is very important, as these will determine the appropriate source of fund. For example, the size of fund by someone who wants to build an industry will not be the same for someone who wants to buy a car for shortening within a particular location. B. Structure of fund. The structure in terms of the proportion or percentage of the fund required is also very important. This could be in the form of equity participation, long-term, short-term, and medium-term loans. C. Interest rate. This can simply be defined as the cost of using someone else's money. The higher the rate of interest, the more expensive the cost of financing the project. Also, the method of calculating interest charge also determine the cost of capital, not only the rate of interest. Thus, there is the need for every potential investor to understand clearly the method of interest calculation used by the prospective lender to be able to make a reasonable cost projection. D. Repayment method. This refers to the length of time a loan is expected to be fully liquidated. The longer the repayment period, the costlier the cost of funds borrowed, depending on the type of project undertaken. E. Moratorium. This is the grace period granted the borrower before the commencement of repayment of the principal. This period usually ranges from a minimum of a few months to a couple of years or more. F. Processing period. This refers to a period it takes for a loan to be finally processed and given approval. These, of course, depend on the amount requested, the nature of the project, and the status of the prospective borrower. G. Disbursement of approved funds. This refers to the period it takes to hand over the processed fund to the borrower. Several reasons may be accounted for this delay, ranging from 1. Non-availability of funds, 2. Administrative bottleneck and undue bureaucratic process, and 3. Unhealthy working environment and inherent malpractices. Sources of financing in Nigeria. There are several sources of financing businesses open to Nigerian entrepreneurs. They include, among others, 1. Private or owner's capital, that is referred to as equity financing. 2. Non-institutional. 3. Institutional. And 4. Credit from suppliers. Private or owner's capital. This is also referred to as equity financing. This is when source of fund comes from the owner of the business, as the case may be. These could be obtained from savings or joint contributions by co-owners. Institutional sources. This is when the sources consist mainly of commercial banks and certain development banks, with commercial banks attending to short-term loans while medium and long-term loans are given by development banks. Non-institutional sources. This source of fund is non-institutional in the sense that it is not formalized kind of financial arrangement. The source consists of funds from friends, relations, isusu, ajo, and money lenders. Funds raised from these sources are generally small in amount and therefore of very limited use. Credit from suppliers. This kind of financial arrangement takes the form of personal informal arrangement in which the supplier, based on established relationships, as the borrower, provides him with short-term credit for goods and services supplied. This is mostly found in the distributive trade in the country. Summary. In this study session, fund was discussed as an essential component of project implementation. Also, there are several sources of financing businesses open to Nigerian entrepreneurs. They include, among others, 1. Private or owner's capital, 2. Non-institutional, 3. Institutional, and 4. Credit from suppliers. This is the end of study session 5. Thanks for listening.